All right, here we go. You ready, Jeff?
I'm ready, Matt. Let's do
I'm going
this.
to jump in. Going straight into play. And I set it up so that we're going into the library first. Oh, yeah, there's still a.
There's a debug entity.
Yes, this is something new. I guess I can show this off, sort of. So we were thinking that, how we've seen before these little raga bodies sprinkled around? And people are like, why are there two ragas, This might help explain it a little bit because it's supposed to look like maybe like an albino raga or just like a raga that looks different somehow.
Negaraga.
Nega raga. So that's obviously just a debug entity, but later on we can take a look and see a little bit more about that.
That's kind of that tipping our hand a little bit with regards to some of the story elements that we're weaving into the game's narrative.
Yeah, we still have this bug going on. You see me just scooting along. Doo-doo-doo. I'm not
What's that?
walking.
Is that from the tail whip?
Yeah, I guess so. I think I just tail whipped. Man, I thought we fixed that like forever ago.
Nah.
These robust bugs that keep coming back.
That's right. They're like like an aggressive form of cancer or something.
They are. Keeps
They spread.
regrowing.
They spread through the coupled systems into your other organs.
You have to kill the queen bug.
That's right.
The bugs will never stay dead.
So we're looking at the library, which has had a few changes since last week, I think. Mostly small things here. I think we did some work on the bat spawning book, which that might be new.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But we're actually we have some entities in the works, some new monsters for this dungeon in the works that aren't quite done yet. It wasn't the week with the most changes so far. I think that you actually came down yesterday, and so we did a live Lost Cast.
Yeah,
Lost Cast 156.
that was fun.
I
like
want to
those
say.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, so check that out. And in Lost Cast 156, we actually talked quite a bit at length about the input systems that exist in AWO2. And
Of which there are many.
which there are many, right? We got the twin stick shooter thing going on, which if you listen to the podcast, you will hear us talk about in great depth why we think it could be good to either remove the dual stick nature altogether or double down on the twin stick nature.
Yeah, we need to pick, right? It feels like the game is kind of in this netherworld between right now, where it's like, I don't know, it's not quite like Zelda, and it's not quite like Smash TV. It's kind of a incomplete version of both or either.
Right. So I think one of the biggest, and it's interesting actually, what we didn't talk about on the podcast was the death mechanic.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have been talking about with the death mechanic was how much we didn't like the mechanics around how you possess monsters.
Right.
And there's a lot of things going on there, and so I'll try to unpack them very quickly for us here. One is that there was the spirit resource, which was tied to possessing monsters.
Yes.
And it wasn't very clear from a player perspective, we think, that what that resource was for, how it was spent, how it was consumed. It wasn't clear when the game was over. Like, at what point when you die do you no longer keep returning as a spirit?
Yeah.
And that felt really funky.
It's true.
And then the last thing was that the actual player input to possess things was really wonky. You had this little charging bar and it would have to fill up, and then the nearest thing to you would then get possessed. And we didn't like a lot of those things. And so you and I had a really intense brainstorming session yesterday when you were down here. And we came up with a brand new approach to the possession mechanic. The core mechanic still works the same, right? You possess a monster and you get to play as them. That stuff is unchanged. But the mechanics around how you get into the body and the resources associated with that have changed.
So you want me to show it?
Let's do it.
Woo!
So what's going on here is that instead of using your input to, basically interact with an entity to possess it, it becomes more of like a projectile, and you shoot out your soul, and it goes forward, and the first enemy that it comes in contact with is what you possess.
Right.
And we like that for a lot of reasons, because one, it harmonizes with the rest of the game, which is all about projectiles. That code just works, and the charging stuff was kind of like a one-off, so keeps things a little more simple.
Yeah.
You'll also notice that we've completely gotten rid of that intermediary spirit form. which we eventually realized was just kind of lame because the only thing you could do in that form was possess a monster anyway.
It wasn't that fun, and it was also a bit confusing because your player avatar still looked like Raga. You know, you were missing your arms, and you looked a little bit more ghost-like, but you couldn't do almost anything that normal Raga could do, and so it left a lot of explaining to do. You know, players were left kind of scratching their heads, and it was on us to explain, like, oh, you're a ghost, and you don't have all your abilities, and you should probably go find something to possess. And it's just like, we're not meeting the player halfway there, you know? We just kind of leave them stranded, and we're like, I don't know, figure it out. Which, like, sometimes that's okay.
Drop them off on the side of the road and tell them to have fun hitchhiking home.
You're free now. Go figure it out and probably die. Yeah, that wasn't a great solution.
Also, the spirit had a lot of weird inconsistencies, like you couldn't take damage. As a spirit, you couldn't actually die, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of problems that get solved here, and one of the biggest ones I think that makes me very happy is the very clear-cut game over mechanic.
Yeah.
So the way the game works now is that if you die in any form, Raga or monster, the game is over.
Right.
Very simple, very clear. And so it's on you to possess something else before you die. Or, you know, you don't even have to do it when you're dead, or when you're about to die. You could also just possess something for fun and profit.
For profit, huh?
Yes.
I like it. Yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of different reasons. One of them being that, like, you could get to somewhere different that you couldn't get to in just your normal Raga body. There might be reasons that you'd want to fly, in which case you would possess a knife like this. I'm going to go for it right here. Oh, help me. Run away. So now I'm possessed a knife and I can fly, and I have a different ability. And there might be lots of reasons that you want almost anything the knife has going on, because knives are cool.
That's true. Knives are pretty cool.
They're fun. I like flying across the screen and just chopping through stuff when I don't miss.
Yes.
Nice.
It might be nice to have a cancel button on the knife charge, but
Yeah.
we talked about it, but we're not quite sure if we want to do that yet.
I think that we need the dust to settle on some of these changes that we're making because...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of turmoil right now.
Right. Like oh, whoops. Whoa, that was weird. You know, polishing the knife, like that's really what that would be, right? It's a polished step because mechanically the knife works fine. The problem is just that we kind of want some niceties like the ability to cancel the charge and other stuff. But, you know, those are all polished steps.
Absolutely, yeah.
Should later, I would call it.
Indeed.
Okay, I gotta jump out of this body because I got low health, so I'm getting nervous. Maybe I'll just take this guy. I'll just take you. You're not doing that bad. I want that healthy clam though.
I think it promotes a lot more interesting gameplay because, you know, before you could die and you didn't really feel like you were in danger until you died.
Yeah.
And then you were in absolutely no danger until you picked up another entity.
Right.
And then at that point, you might feel like you're in danger because the monsters typically have lower health than the player starts with. But you didn't really get that feeling of like, I'm on the edge of a knife here.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
The edge of a chef's knife. Oh, I love it. Yeah, so the health bars are really clear. You know, they're conventional. People know what they are. They recognize that it means, you know, this thing's getting weaker. And when you've got one directly on your player avatar like this, you know, that's harder to get wrong. You know, a lot of people are going to understand that. And it's less work for us, honestly, to explain, like, oh, you know, when you run out of health, it switches to your spirit resource, and that's really the source of truth when it comes to your game over state. Like, what? How do you even explain that in a game without, you know, just having a paragraph of text to read, which nobody wants to do, right? They just want to play a game.
I found, you know, just personally playing the game, there were several times where I wouldn't be as careful as I should have been because I was out of spirit and I didn't realize it. And the game would just end, you know, when I died. And I'm like, wait, why am I not a spirit? Oh, I didn't have enough of this special spirit resource that we don't really tell you is so important.
Yeah. And, like, you know, we could have had, you know, the screen turns red and it says low on spirit and it shakes and all that stuff. But, you know, this gets the job across just as well.
Another thing that we're trying out right now is we remove the mana cost of abilities from monsters. at least specifically. And it might actually be part of a larger mana refactor. We'll have to see how that ends up going.
Yeah.
We're actually on a quest to simplify a lot of the systems in the game, especially the player entry points into those systems. And that's something that we talked in depth about on the podcast, about overwhelming the player with input choices.
Right. So you see this, what I just did? I love this new strategy that these new death mechanics have brought to the game, really. So there were 3 knives up here, and I possessed by shooting Raga across this pit here. And when I was in there, I effed him up, man. I just went crazy on him, and I didn't care that I was taking damage because it actually kind of worked out for me that it was taking damage because now I got to deal with that knife. So I can just one-shot him. So it was kind of like I just ran in and killed everything, including the vessel I was currently possessing. Love it. Ooh, I can go back to Raga here. Let's see.
One of my initial concerns with this new design is that, I mean, I know we just cut Spirit, but I could kind of see a world where, Spirit could make a comeback as a resource, and it wouldn't be bad the way it was before.
Right.
Because if it costs a Spirit to shoot your Spirit, that makes a lot more sense than you need to have a Spirit when you die, or else you die and the game's over. Otherwise, you turn into the ghost, and then you can possess things for 1 Spirit.
Yeah.
Because right now, I feel like it is possible to be very, diligent with, clearing a room and then always taking the last enemy as your host, and then infinite health, essentially.
Yeah.
Although one of the things that we have been talking about, and one of the things we're kind of excited about, is that this death mechanic kind of allows you to refresh your health bar in some ways. You have to sacrifice your body to get a full health body, but that's a really interesting way to restore your health.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we can incentivize the player to do that is by not having a lot of traditional health drops.
Right.
Where you pick up this item and you get X amount of health back.
Yeah, and in that way, if you're playing really well and you don't need any health, you're kind of rewarded for that. You don't have to worry about it as much, and you have the option of, like I'm doing here, I can still do it if I want to, but there's less risk for me because I'm not in any danger of dying. I basically just really like giving the player multiple ways to tackle problems,
Yeah, I think that's really important in almost any game, right? Like, you want to allow the player to feel like they figured it out themselves, or they took their own path, or, it never feels good when there's just one way to do something.
Yeah, you're like, I figured it out, and you're like, good job, there was only the one way. Which, I mean, that can be like a Rubik's Cube or something, I don't know, like, that can be very satisfying sometimes, but that's just not the game that we're making. We want to make something with, like, we want to be surprised by some of the ways that players solve various obstacles,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things that we've talked about before, and I don't know that we've ever internalized it the way that we really need to, but we absolutely want to have a game that can surprise us.
Yeah.
We want things to happen in the game.
I forgot chickens can get one shot.
Yes,
man.
See, I think that's good. That's the new death mechanic at work, right? Like, chickens are very dangerous to possess.
Yeah.
Because, you're one hit away from being dead.
Yeah. I was playing risky there.
You were playing like it was the old mechanics.
I was.
I don't know if last video if the books worked the way they worked now. So that might be a new thing where the books shoot out.
They shoot bats.
They used to shoot a single bat, and that bat would then shoot apples at you.
They were.
Remember?
They were big head bats.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would grunt at you and oink at you, and they would spit apples. And, like, the apples were bigger than the bats' entire bodies themselves. So it was like, what is up with these bats?
What is happening?
These bats are crazy.
Also, you replaced one of the barrels or pots in here with potted plants, which look a lot better in the library. So a little bit of prop environment polish, trying to make it feel a little more library-ish.
Props to the plants.
Props to the plant.
Yeah, I think that it, because that could just be a pot right there, just like in the kitchen. But that's the kind of thing that adds up, and it makes it feel more like a library.
Indeed.
You know that you're in a different place. Ah, so many bats. Oh, this armor is not great for bats.
No.
Ooh, bats are good against bats, though.
That's true.
We'll let them kill each other. Do it. Oh, not me. Not me. Oh,
The
yeah,
only
we meant to
thing-
fix this one where you can just spam
The stomp.
the stop. It's kind of fun, though.
The only thing that can stop a bad guy with bats is a good guy with bats.
You got to fight bats with bats,
That's right.
as they say.
As they say.
All right, maybe I should get my body back. Oh, we got to work
Maybe
on
you
his
should.
hitbox.
Who's hitbox?
Look at this. Like, I'm just noticing that the armor's circle doesn't really wrap around his base.
Oh yeah, the hero pointer or whatever is
And
off.
it makes his hitbox look a little weird. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you should fix that.
Me? What am I going to be the one?
Because anything that's rendered on the screen is your
I guess
responsibility,
that's true, yeah.
or I'm gonna make it your responsibility.
Yeah. It's kind of my domain. Where
That's
did my
right.
body go? We could maybe include Raga bodies on the map. I think it's back here. There it is. I'm going to go get it.
Yeah. So one thing that the way that we do the map icons is that it's by room type, and what we should probably do is create icons based on not only the room type but the room contents.
Yeah, that's true.
Although it gets kind of confusing, right? Because what happens if you leave your body in a store?
Right.
And like, do we show a store icon or do we show a body icon?
Yeah.
I don't know. It gets complicated.
Tell you what, though, man, I could spend all day working on mini maps. I don't know what it is about them. Ow. Oh, come on, Matt. But it's like my happy place, Adding those icons recently and kind of tweaking the sizes. They're so fun. I just love mini maps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've always enjoyed our mini map.
Here's another reason to, you might want to possess a different monster because, like, you can see here I'm out of blue mana, So, like, I can save my blue mana and I can go... Oh, wrong one. Wait, where's that stupid looking... I love how he looks, too. Look how derpy that is. It's just like...
Well, I was,
Spaz Raga.
Well, when I was prototyping this mechanic, I knew I wanted to use the Raga Ghost sprite
Yeah.
to represent your spirit coming out of you.
And you saw that frame and
when I
you're
saw
like,
that frame, I was like, "This is it.
we have a winner. Uh-oh.
This is the frame."
Yeah. This one, best.
Yes. I think I'm encouraged. It's hard when you make drastic changes sometimes because they can very often feel really good right away.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because they're good, and sometimes it's because they're different, and you haven't actually played with it enough to find the big pain points.
Yeah.
But I'm encouraged that we've actually solved some of the issues with the wonkiness around possession and depossession. I hope.
Yeah. Knock on wood. Uh-oh.
Because one of the things that we were talking about yesterday is, our inclination to band-aid weird situations with more band-aids.
More band-aids.
And so the way that this went with the possession the first time around was that, possession acted a lot like Interactin, right? Where you would stand next to something, you would hit a button, and then something would immediately happen.
Yeah.
And we were like, that doesn't feel good. Let's add a charge delay so that when you stand next to something, this bar fills up and then you possess it. And we thought that was a great idea.
Right.
And then after playing with that for a while, we decided that, it doesn't feel that good because it's kind of boring to stand there. And then there were these certain cases, especially with knives, where it was really hard to possess them because they would run away from you, and as soon as you get close to them, they would charge you and run off. And you could almost never possess a knife very easily.
It felt really lousy, honestly.
And so our first inclination was hey, let's add this stun thing to the knives while you're charging your possession so they don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a decent idea at the time, but after thinking about it for a while, it just kind of seems like that whole process was just band-aid after band-aid after band-aid.
It was.
When really, turning the possession into a projectile-based weapon solves all of those problems with very little complication.
Right. And there's something to be said, too, about, okay, look at this game. There's projectiles flying everywhere. Almost everything in the game has projectiles. The game handles projectiles really well. Oh, I did it again. What? I possessed the chicken. My point is, though, that the projectiles are already really robust. They have all these events attached to them. It's easy to polish them. It's easy to create them and destroy them. And so adding more behavior to those projectiles, for example, making it how the possession mechanic works, that was much easier to bootstrap that than it was to create this brand new charging mechanic and stunning and bolting stuff onto the side and making this clumsy system that didn't work before, you know. But with projectiles, it was like going with the flow of how the rest of the game was already implemented.
Yeah, it's something that we need to get better at, which is just harmonizing and going to flow within our own game design. You know, we have a tendency to just add new stuff.
We do.
For very little good reason.
Reuse.
That's right.
We need more reuse across the board.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. This has been a Wizards Lizard 2 Alpha 5. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on the new possession mechanics. What do you think about seeing it? Obviously, you know, it's hard to give it a full critique without playing it in person, but let us know what you think about the direction and on the forum or on the comments on YouTube.
Thanks for watching.
Ship it.